we want more business owners to have more successful businesses that function like a system so they can solve more problems for other people.
You know when you meet someone and you can just tell that they are a really deep thinker? Well, that is my guest today, Valentina Coin from Via Technology. She has started this business, and honestly, it's not like any other tech company you have ever heard of, or at least I haven't anyway. I learnt heaps from Val just through talking with her and the way she thinks about leadership processes, about culture, about change management, systems, efficiency. We cover a lot of ground, and I know you'll get a lot out of it. So strap in, enjoy, let's get into it. Val, thank you so much for joining me in the virtual studio all the way from the sunny coast. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Caleb. It's a pleasure.
It's so cool to have you on here because, as I've recently found out, you're a bit of a podcast guest veteran, and I'm expecting a bit of genius dropped on this, but I can't wait to dive into your story and what it is you do, how you got there. But then also, I'm really interested about your real intentional push into podcasting and the value you see in that medium. But let's start all the way back at the start. So right now, what does your business Via Technology look like? What, unpack it for me. What is Via Technology?
Yeah, it's a great place to start. So at Via, we are a team of technology experts, and we work with organizations who are typically in a scale and growth phase to build what we call strategic business systems. So you can think of us as digital transformation advisors, you can think of us as software experts. Ultimately, what we aim to build is systems and aligning a team, tools, and processes so that the business can scale. And sometimes that looks like bringing in new technology. Sometimes that looks like optimizing their operations and really looking at where can we find more efficiency. And sometimes it means looking at the people. Do we have the right people in the right seat? Do they have ownership over their tasks, their accountability, their own teams? And have we given them visibility over what it is that they need to look after? So,
ooh, yeah. Wow. So it sounds like you're touching a fair few areas there. Like when people come to you or see your brand, like when I first was aware of your brand, I thought, maybe managed services business, just sort of from the outside. Or what's the most common kind of expectations that you find in your market of your type of business? And do you have a really similar comparative competitor?
I love all of those questions. Oh, this is going to be so fun. So first off, I'm very intentional when I say we build systems. And the reason for that is, for me, for us at Via, systems has a very, very specific meaning. But the way the listener interprets the word system already tells me a lot about the conversation we are going to have. So to answer your question, Caleb, sometimes I say we build systems. And what is reflected back at me? Ooh, so you're a software vendor. Yeah. System equals technology, platform. Sometimes I get back, so you write SOPs. Sometimes I get back a variety, so many different things without going into the rabbit hole. So first off, the word system is one of my favorites. We have our own definition, which I'm sure we'll get to later, but it is such a telltale word for who do I have in front of me? How are they thinking? It gives me a little bit of an insight. As far as competitors, we get compared to a lot of different things, a lot of different professionals. One of my pet peeves is to be compared to simply just a project manager, because we do project management, but this is almost the last piece of the puzzle of what we do. Technology implementation is really the icing on the cake. First, we've got to build solid foundations. At the other end of the spectrum, we get compared to a business coach. And coaching, I love coaching, very, very big supporter of coaching, but there is so many coaches out there that I feel like it's a little bit of an it's a crowded industry, let's put it that way.
Yes.
So that's also another one of my pet peeves. And the third thing that sometimes happens is I get into these conversations with other consultants or other experts or other coaches where their professional opinion is to try and separate coaching, consulting, and the execution element. So coaching, it's asking someone a question and helping them come to their own answer. Consulting or strategy work means I am the expert, I have the answers, I'm going to put it all into a very pretty 37-page document that you don't know how to translate to your business. And executing simply means, right, surface level problem, let me solve it right there with some sticky tape. And in my view, we need all three done to really solve business problems. That's why I hate separating them.
Yeah, I love that actually, because where a lot of people think, I'm going to niche down into one thing and just do that, you're coming to the table thinking, well, how do I make the biggest impact? How do I actually help a business grow the most effective way possible? And it's by a more of a holistic approach, right? That's very cool. So tell me about the types of businesses that you serve. Like what are you delivering? Who are you delivering to?
Yes. So as far as industry, we are industry agnostic. So we could work realistically with any type of business. Typically, our best clients are businesses that have a high level of operational complexity. So you've got a lot of people, vehicles, products, services, houses, things and people that need to be moved, and services and product that needs to be delivered. And it typically comes with a high level of complexity. A lot of the common industries are the disability and aged care industry is really a big one for us. Education is another one. Sciences is another one. Professional services, depending on the professional service. Some of them are very, very streamlined. A lawyer's systems are very, very simple. But different professional services that are a bit more nuanced could be a fit. Yep. And although we could work with purely product-based businesses, so say a drop shipping or a business that sells socks, for example, online, we could, but typically their focus is exclusively on the efficiency, on saving the minute, on streamlining everything to the nth degree. And our methodology is really very much in service of, so we build systems which are made of people, process, and technology, all in service of delivering an experience. So if it is a product business that wants to deliver an experience in the buying, purchase journey, in the client's journey, in the delivery journey, in the post-purchase journey, then yes, we can probably support them well. But if they're just looking for pure blind efficiency, saving the minute, maybe there's better firms out there to help them. Yeah.
Wow. I love it. Tell me about a few, and you can keep confidentiality, but tell me about a few journeys that, examples of journeys that you've taken some businesses on.
So I guess starting from one of the stories that I share quite often is a company came to us, it's probably now 4 years ago, and they came to us, most of our clients come to us presenting with a technology problem. That's where the pain is felt. And in their case, it's not very likely, but in their case, it was an actual technology problem. So they came to us because their software vendor, their software platform was being decommissioned, and they had 3 weeks to move their entire operations out of it.
Whoa.
So it was a very fast turnaround project, very, very high-paced. Typically, we like to take our time and find the best fit for every client. But in that case, I had to let go of my perfectionism a little bit. And so we were able in 3 weeks to essentially export all the data from their platform. I sketched at the high level all the key processes that we needed to document and preserve and safeguard for the business to continue. And we managed to transfer the data just a couple of days before the platform was decommissioned. So the data was safe. The processes, I had to leverage a few of my team members to help to map that and make sure that there was some ownership within their team to take over this transition. And they were very graceful through that. They understood the next 3 to 6 months were going to be quite tough on the team, but the leadership themselves was so encouraging and so patient with their own team, which allowed the team to be so graceful through that transition. And within 6 months, it was all back to normal. So that's one end of the spectrum, right? Very fast paced. And then we did the process. So we almost reverse engineered it. We did a short and sharp 3 weeks, and then we followed up our normal process later on. Another example could be there's a beautiful organization that is closer to Brisbane, and they deliver science workshops and educational content. And they have a beautiful goal to impact, I want to say it's 5 million children per year. And they decided to completely change their business model a couple of years ago. They were operating on a legacy software, again, starting from the software. They were operating on a legacy software platform that was actually built for tradies. And they knew that with a new business model, with online services, with partnerships with schools, with all of those other different revenue streams that they were creating, they really needed a system which went beyond the technology that could really help them grow and scale the business beyond just the Brisbane area.
Yeah.
And we were able to build that with them. In that case, we chose a no-code platform, which there's strengths and weaknesses to those types of CRMs and ERPs. In this case, obviously, because of the variety of business models, that was the right choice for them specifically. Yeah. And one of the best things we did with them was create an executive dashboard. And so each one of the leaders within that business, the CEO, each department leader, have their own command center where they can see everything that's happening, what's on track, what's not on track. And we're now looking at AI to try and help them forecast and spot trends before the problems occur. Wow. So that was also quite a stunning project.
Wow.
And then probably I will just give you another one. At the other end of the spectrum, we partnered with a business most recently, probably about 9 months ago now, and we recently finished working with them. They had just purchased, it was a couple, and they just purchased a business down in New South Wales, and they provide equipment to a specific niche of the disability industry, and they purchased the business. And as soon as they purchased the business, they realized it came with no system and all the knowledge was held by the previous owner.
Ooh, ouch.
So we did a really big piece of capturing and safeguarding that knowledge before it walked out the door. So they engaged with them. They agreed on a 3-month transition and handover, which was lovely. We were able to capture that. And then they've chosen again to increase different revenue stream, change a little bit the business model, move to more of a subscription style than just a sale and then that's it. So they've got maintenance services now, they've got upsells, and the system is really being built to drive the behavior of each different team. So the sales portion of the process is very much supported by AI, and the system helps drive the sales team to take certain action. On the delivery side, there's very, very strict timelines that we need to respect in as far as between when an order is put through, when it is delivered to the person's home, and how frequently that item is serviced, depending on the type of service. So the system takes care of reminders and nudges and calendar and bookings and all of that. And right at the other end, they are now 9 months in, and the purpose for them to buy this business was to actually not flip it like a house, but grow it and then sell it.
Yep.
And it has gone at such a fast speed that they were thinking of doing that in 5 years. They've now brought it back to 3 years.
Wow.
Because it's growing so quickly.
That's
systems
a good
can do that.
story. That's a good news story. Of those stories, there's varying ways that you've been able to help different businesses. When someone comes in, like the word technology, right? Let's dive into that a little bit. What types of platforms, technological systems, what type of technology when you're talking to businesses about how you can help?
Yes. So primarily we are talking about software when we're talking technology. We can, on occasion, dip our toe into the hardware side of the equation. For example, we did a face scanning project a few years ago.
Yep.
Which was, we were heavily influencing the software side of things, but it did include a gizmo, an actual thingamajig.
Yeah.
So primarily we're talking software. As far as the types of software, look, typically we're talking ERP or CRMs. We like to create as much as possible, depending on the stages of business. So actually, I'll give you two answers. We try to create for a business that is established and is growing and scaling and is essentially preparing for that big ramp up. We like to give them one single platform as much as we can, plus a financial software sitting on the side.
Yep.
Right. One of the key elements of our methodology is that your systems will change as your business scales and grows. There's nothing wrong with that. It's part of the process. You can't pretend to, buy a Salesforce when you're a startup. It just wouldn't make any sense. So I think if we accept that, for every stage of business, there is a good setup that will take you to a certain level, and then you're going to have to change. The key is in recognizing that A, this is normal and it's a pattern. B, let's be proactive and try to pick software platforms that can take us at least 3 to 5 years in the future of where we are now. So we want to build, like when you buy clothes for children, you want to buy them a little bit bigger than what you need right now so they can grow into it. But then the other key piece is when we start feeling the system become a little bit tight on us, the risk is to hang on to it because it's worked for us so far, and this is what's going to slow down growth. So we have to recognize what are the flags this is happening and proactively say, okay, we've outgrown this area of our business system. How can we upgrade it? Can we stretch it a little bit more? Can we get back in touch with the vendor? Can we add something? Yes, no. And if it's no, where can we go next? So back to the question at hand. Financial software, we can advise on financial software, but typically accounting hasn't changed for hundreds of years. So it's fairly straightforward. There's a few very well-known names in the industry. Depending on business size, you might go to one or the other. So unless there is a particular need to track specific products or services or location or particularly complex matrices that we need to track financials in, financial software is very simple. We focus on your core business piece of technology, which is usually an ERP or for the smaller businesses, a CRM. And we do a lot of work with customizable software a lot of the time. On the simpler end of the spectrum, you've got your off-the-shelf. So you buy your software, you pay your monthly license. At most, you can change your logo and your brand colors, and Bob's your uncle. The platform does what it's supposed to do. But as you grow as a business, you might want something more from your platform. Or maybe you have a particular business that is so unique and so complex in their operations that it requires something that is not an off-the-shelf platform. And that's where customizable ERPs, no-code platform, or something really big like a Salesforce type of ERP can really come to the table and shine, because there is a genuine need for complexity and customization. And there needs to be a company that understands what it is that they want and how it is that they want it. Yeah. So different stages, different software. Does that give you a bit of a feel, Caleb?
It does. Yeah, that's really good. So for those who aren't across the terms, customer relationship manager is a CRM, an enterprise resource platform is enterprise resource planning.
I think it's planning.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. ERP.
Good catch.
That's a new term for me, really. I haven't had insight into a business that is running, well, not that I've had touch points with an ERP. So just explain ERP for us.
In my mind, and the way that I explain it to my customers, that's why I actually lump them together. And thank you for pointing that out, Caleb. So at a technical level, yes, there are differences. But realistically, to me, what I call a good CRM and an ERP are not so very different. And now I hear all the tech experts out there take up arms in rage, in the sense that to me, a CRM, a customer relationship management tool that only holds your customer name, their address, and maybe a couple of notes as to when you spoke to them last, is a very, very small piece of software that should do more. So what I call a good CRM should do so much more than that. And an ERP is a piece of software that can, yes, look after the data of your customers, but also manage all of your operations, whatever they may look like. So have you got clients? Yes. Have you got staff? Yes. Have you got houses or trucks? And the houses need to be leased, repairs need to be made, or the trucks or the vehicle need to be serviced, fuel needs to be put in, you need to keep a travel log for those vehicles. What else might you have? You might have equipment. So you might be selling beds, commodes, you might be selling notepads. So you need a stock or an inventory management software. So what an ERP is, it's a piece of software that can do all of those things for you, instead of you having to have a separate HR software here, a customer dedicated platform over there, a stock management over there, a rostering, a payroll system, all of them separate. ERP brings it all together into one platform. The only one piece of the equation that we often keep out of an ERP, even though a lot of ERP have that, is the accounting and the financial software.
And what's the reason for that?
Because typically have you ever been into one of those restaurants that does all different cuisines? They do Italian, they do Lebanese, They do Chinese, Japanese, everything.
Yes.
It's okay, and some of them are really good, but it's probably not as
but you stay
traditional.
away from like the Italian and the Lebanese ones on the menu, because they don't do that very well at all.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And so that's the way I think about it. Finance, there's, as I said, some really good players in the market for the different stages of business growth. And they are so much more in-depth. They have so many more features and capabilities as far as an accounting perspective than an ERP ever could. And it's simply a limitation of time. When you're the software developer of an ERP, you can't work on everything. So you've got to make some choices, and you're gonna build every part of the system to the good enough. And then for some of them, you're going to bring them to that next level. But some others, you're going to have to leave them to the good enough stage. You can't have everything.
Yeah.
And we have found over time, that's what happens with the financial modules of most ERPs. There are some that are really good.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Now that we're speaking about it, I'm calling back to memory. There's certain industries that have ERP platforms that are built specifically for that industry. So they know exactly who they're serving. Real estate's a good one. Transport's a good one. Food manufacturing would be another that have dedicated, that have software companies that have built ERP platforms for them specifically.
Yeah. And you make a really good point, Caleb. There is also the consideration of, based on the industry that a business is in, it might be a really good fit to take one of those industry agnostic platforms and ERPs. So without dropping any names, you know who I'm talking about. And then you might also have your industry specific ones, which for some industries, they go into the hundreds. There's hundreds of software, for example, for the disability industry that are built purpose just for disability and aged care. And no other business would have any reason for purchasing them. So they simply purely exist for that industry. And yet sometimes the right choice for a business in that industry is to go with an industry agnostic platform because it might be a better fit for them. Maybe they are
more flexibility.
A disability provider. Yeah, exactly. More flexibility. Maybe they have multiple arms of their business. Disability is one of them, but then they have 2 or 3 more. So in that case, a flexible option is best.
Let's go through the process that you take a business through. Say you've got a brand new client. What is your process that you take them through?
Yep. So first of all, we want to be assessing where the business is at. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, Typically, most of our clients come to us presenting with a technology problem and desiring a technology solution. The very first thing we get them to do is a self-assessment. And we have built an online tool for that, which is amazing. It was an upgrade we did about a year ago. It asks them a series of questions, there's guiding videos, and it's very much putting the process in control of the client, of where do you want to take your business next? What does it look like today? What do you want it to look like tomorrow? Where do you feel your pain is? And what are the symptoms of that pain? That gives me not only the answer in black and white on the document, but it actually gives me insight into how they think and reason and what the pattern behind the answers are. So from that, the system gives us back across the 4 pillars, people, process, technology, and experience, an assessment against industry benchmarks of where does this business sit? So in as far as people, process, tech, where does it sit in comparison to other businesses in the same growth phase, in the same region, and in the same industry? And from an experience perspective, are they ready to start looking at improving the experience they provide their customer and their staff and all of their stakeholders, really? Or do we need to look at the framework and the basic operations of the business before we can lay the experience on top? There's no point looking at your experience before we do that.
Yeah.
So that's the very first step. And then from that, the journey is the same. We always touch the 3 domains of people, process, and technology, but the order in which we touch them heavily depends on that initial assessment. As I shared earlier, if we have only 3 weeks to replace our software, although our methodology is tech always comes last, in that case, we had to make an exception.
Yeah. The need said otherwise.
The need was great. So in the ideal journey, we would want to start with process. That's the base. I think about it as a 3-legged stool. People, process, and technology are the 3 legs of the stool. If you think to solve your problem just with technology, can a stool stand on only 1 leg? No, it will topple. Same again with people. Can you solve the problem by hiring more people? No, the system will break. And process. Sometimes there are experts advising that you need to document everything in your business and build an SOP for everything and compliance document for everything. It's still going to break your business. You need all 3 to operate together. So we like to start from process because that's really the foundation. We need to understand and we need the business leader and every leader in that organization, whether they hold the seat or not. They might be a leader without holding the seat, which is a really interesting scenario we come across. We need everyone who can help drive change and help drive the culture of that workplace. We need them to understand truly, how does our business operate? What is noise? And what are the important signals that we need to listen to? What are the key processes that can we strip everything back? What's the core golden thread that runs across our business? And we can't do our job without it. Everything else is secondary to that. What does success look like in that particular process at every step? Who owns every step? And once we map it all out, we like to say, we can then look at a business like a board game. So much of what we do in business is so serious, and so much of what we do in tech is so complicated, and it has acronyms and technical names that nobody understands unless you're a technical person. Let's build your business like a board game so we can create some distance, we can create some detachment, and it looks simple. A game has clear rules, clear players. You move a player here, you can either do it or not do it because of the rules. And if you do it, what's the consequence? That's what we want for business owners, to be able to look at their business like a board game. So
my mind is being blown. Like, this is just amazing. So what I want to know is, how often do you come across that initial kind of self-assessment, and then the business, you have the next conversation and the business owner or whoever's dealing with you just goes, wait on a second, hang on. You can help us with all of that? Not just the technology? How often do you have that conversation?
I'd probably say 50% of the time.
Right.
And that is 100% of the time for individuals who find us organically.
Yeah.
Or who hear me speak, or who see me at an event and then come and visit our website. And then we have a free version actually of that self-assessment available for everybody to take. And they take that and then they go, wow, there's all of these things that we could do. But the other 50% of the people that come to us, they typically are referred in. And in that case, they already have, we're very, very blessed and grateful with a lot of partners and a lot of grateful clients who sent us other clients, because at the end of the day, we want more businesses to succeed. Businesses exist to solve problems. We love solving problems, but we are not experts in all of the industries of the world. And we want more business owners to have more successful businesses that function like a system so they can solve more problems for other people. And that's where we try to get there.
I love it. Yeah. And it makes a lot of sense. So you've, and we'll get into your story in a little bit to really unpack how you got here. But you've come to a place where generally half the leads coming in are aware of what you can do, and they're kind of problem and solution aware in terms of they know what they're struggling with, and they know that you're probably the team to help them overcome them.
Yes.
And then the other leads coming in are ones that don't really necessarily understand what you're capable of helping them with, but they know a part of it, and they're like, I think we've got a technology problem and we need just that solved, and we'll be, happy and on our way. But then you get the opportunity to say, hey, after seeing what, laying out what your business looks like and what you're dealing with, we can help you in these 5 different areas that you didn't know that we could.
Yes.
That's pretty amazing. Wow. I'm amazed. I'm speechless. Honestly, I don't think I have come across a business quite like yours before, Val.
Thank you, Caleb. I'll take it.
Yeah. One that's integrating so many different aspects and bringing such a holistic approach to helping businesses solve problems. And I can just hear you've got so many different lenses and analogies and ways of communicating complex things and making them simple, to the point where I don't think sales and new client acquisition would be one of your problems, Val. I think once you have the conversation with you. Yeah.
Yes, 100%. We've spent the first couple of years of this business really paying a lot of attention to that initial part of the journey, because at the beginning it wasn't 50-50. We weren't receiving referrals, right? It was all, as any startup, it was all hustle, find clients. Where do I find clients? How do I communicate? And the way I communicate right now as well is very different to the way I was communicating 4 years ago. Naturally, we all evolve, we all learn, we all improve. So we put so much intentionality into creating a journey for, if anyone has never heard of us before, chances are they find us through our free webinars, a YouTube channel, they see me speaking at a conference, they listen to a podcast like yours, and they first interact with us and get a first, dipping the toe into what it is that we can help them with, but it still feels very fuzzy and distant, right? I'm talking about big concept in rapid fire right now.
Yeah.
And so typically that's why we have so many free self-assessment and free pieces of IP that we share, because everyone's in a different... So from our perspective, all problems, when we abstract them and elevate them enough at 30,000 feet, can be solved in a very similar way, and they are the same problem, no matter the size of the business, no matter the stage of growth. But when we are in the problem ourselves, they look and feel and taste very different. So when we have a staff problem, if we're a solopreneur, it is because, we don't have staff and we're doing all the job. So we need a system to help us do more. When we have our first VA or our first team of two or three, then we're starting to talk about delegation and mapping how things are done, and maybe letting go of how I want it done so that I can let them, my team, shine at what they do best and do it in their way. But I still have to hold a frame, and it's my business. Things need to be done to a certain degree in my way. So where's the balance there? At the other end of the spectrum, when we have 1,000, 5,000 employees, we still have staffing problem, but they take a very different flavor. Maybe we have absenteeism. Maybe we have such a disconnect between the CEO and the person on a few layers down that's actually doing the job on the ground. How do we recreate that connection? The problem is the same. It's people, ownership, sometimes ego comes into the conversation. There's so many layers, but for us on the outside, we can solve it the same way because it's the same problem, but it takes different flavors when we're in it.
Yeah, great. I just love hearing you communicate. It's making a lot of sense to me, and it's really exciting. Good. There's two things I want to ask you. Well, one, firstly, we'll go with the perfect fit client. What does a perfect fit client look like for you? You've talked about just then everyone from a solopreneur to a large business that has thousands of employees. In that spectrum, who are you set up to serve? Yes. So
I'll give you two answers if I may, Caleb.
Of course.
I do that a lot. So right now, Via is set up now with the team that we currently have and the capacity that we currently have, the best clients for us are teams between 50 and 500, I would say. So sitting right smack bang in the middle. Typically, it would be a business that's been going for at least, I would say, 3 to 5 years to give it a bit of runway, a bit of solidity to it, and to be quite frank, for problems to develop. Because if we were to come and work with a startup right now, it would be premature because problems have not developed just yet. And also to be, again, fully transparent, the business owner does not have yet the acceptance and understanding that those problems need to be solved, and maybe they might not be the best person. It's the same for us in our business. When we see a problem, first thing we say is, well, we're very intelligent, smart people and business owners. Let's try and solve it ourselves. And it doesn't always work. And then we bring in experts to help us. So I think it's part of the process and the speed at which us as business leaders, we can recognize that there is a problem. We have tried to address it with our own skills and our own capacity at the moment. And sometimes we have the skills, we just don't have the capacity all the time. And that's why we outsource the solution. Or sometimes we need to build up our skills. We're not marketing experts. We are learning how to do marketing, but we have a great marketing team that sits alongside us and does both the strategy and a little bit of the execution. In the meantime, we're building up our own marketing muscle so that we can do all three. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked.
That's good. No, it's really good.
3 to 5 years in business, 50 to 500 employees. Typically, if someone's listening and they feel like they have a high degree of complexity in their operations are chaotic, we're missing track of clients, we're missing track of tasks to be done, staff in key roles, there's a high turnover in key roles. When I say key roles for us, what I'm looking at is your operations manager or office admin or COO, depending on the size of your business, the person who holds all of your operations. If the turnover in that seat is quite high, then something's not right. Or finance, CFO, finance lead as well. Because sometimes when the operations arm of the business, how do I put this? When the operations arm of the business is solving some problem but letting others go down the stream, finance is the final bottlenecks because we have to invoice and we have to pay bills. So a lot of the time, a lot of the problem the finance team and the pressure the finance teams all around Australia experience are not finance problems. They're operations problem, they're sales problem, they're marketing problem, but finance is at the end of the funnel. It's at the end of the process. So they hold the pressure. So that's what I'm looking for. And yeah, really any industry. And if you're particularly going through maybe a merger and acquisition or a change of business model and you feel like the technology isn't quite there to support you, or you know there's something that it could do more to support you, those are the ideal clients for us. The second answer that I have to the question, and I'll make it super quick, because we recognize that even though we're growing the business, we are quite limited. When I say we, by the way, it's myself and my husband, and I know we'll get to that later. We are also working on building a second business, which is a second product really, where we can pull all of our expertise, and we are also considering bringing in other experts because, as I said before, we are not experts in everything. There's certain disciplines that we would never dream of advising on. We're wanting to build a community and a membership where all of those frameworks, all of those tools, all of those pieces of knowledge are available for the smaller cohort of businesses that maybe have less capacity to engage with us directly, can still benefit from it, or they could send their office admin to be part of that membership, and essentially they can access high-level advisory at a fraction of the cost. So we're working on that.
Nice.
Stay tuned.
Hey, sorry to interrupt, but that is the end of episode 1. But it's only part 1 of the conversation with Val Coin. So please, the next episode is ready to roll. Click next and enjoy the conversation as it continues.